Hi, we are going to go ahead and get started on our webinar for today, which is all about our Egypt 2026 small group adventure. Hi, my name is Kim Huber. I am with Cruise Planners, adventuresandcruises.com. We like to say wander far, but not alone. And we'll talk a little bit more about who we are and what we do, and then I'll go into great detail about our adventure for Egypt, what we're going to do day by day, and then give you a little bit of an idea on, some of the pricing and some of the specials that are currently going on because it is almost Black Friday and there are some deals that our partners are offering. So we want to pass that along to you. But that being said, let's go ahead and get started. And let me see, here we go. There we go. Of course, we are talking today about Egypt. Our goal is to go with you on a tour of Egypt in 2026. Specifically, our first date is in March of 2026. So we don't have too much time before then, but we want to go ahead and get that out there and share it with everybody. And then, hopefully everybody watching, you'll want to go with us and send us a note, and we'll talk more. But let's get going. Who are we? At Cruise Planners, Adventures and Cruises, our mission is, right there. We're here to provide a high level of expertise and service to allow you, our clients, to experience unique, affordable, but unforgettable journeys. And we do this leveraging technology and industry partnerships. And we simplify travel planning to provide you with a seamless and supportive travel experience. We love to help our curious explorers discover more about the world and about themselves. And we do this by offering our small group adventures where we combine a little bit of active exploration with some culturally immersive experiences. And today we're going to specifically talk about how we're going to do that in Egypt. First and foremost, why do we say wander far but not alone? We do believe that travel is a path of self-discovery, but that you can do that and pursue that path with shared adventures and balance both independence and connection on these travels of self-discovery. Why do we like our small groups? We feel that you actually get better experiences by having small groups that are an average of 12, maybe 14 people, but we max it out at 20 because we are trying to avoid those big buses. We want to have, less waiting around, more experiences, be able to get deeper into different locations that you just can't do when you're dealing with big groups of people or big buses. And we feel that you make better connections when you have a smaller group that you travel with, like-minded people in a smaller group. You're going to bond more and create more stories and, come away with bigger connections. So small groups are bigger connections and bigger experiences. Oh, that's a little bit more about where we are going in 2026. So we're starting, of course, with Egypt today, but we are also planning groups that are going into Peru to see Machu Picchu, to Brazil and Argentina to see some of the natural wonders that are in Brazil and Argentina. And then we are also going to South Africa and Uganda, maybe Zimbabwe in there as well. And then we're going to go farther and go over to Japan, and then also Portugal in the fall, which is a wonderful time of year, but we'll do that later. Today we're going to focus on Egypt, and our trips are about focusing on ancient wonders, on the natural environment, and the marvels that we can see in all of these different locations. We want immersive but flexible experiences to create those deeper connections with the world, with other people, and we are here to provide support for you before, during, and after all of these trips. So our trips in general, this is a little quick overview of how we put them together. We're gathering like-minded people. Feel free to help us get more people like you in our groups. We work on the destination and the dates. We're going to gather the information from you, personal details, things that will help us personalize the experience for you, not just for the group. We're going to foster communication. We're going to have webinars. We're going to have events. We're going to have chat groups. We're going to really educate and support you well before we actually go on the trip itself. But then, of course, we join you and we have a wonderful trip together and we help support you during the trip. Hopefully, you all make wonderful connections with each other. We hope to make connections with you as well. And then you just come back and you share, those memories and experiences and of course, tell everyone how you have the most wonderful travel advisors and support and experiences that you can recommend to other people. Okay, now we get to the meat and potatoes. So Egypt. We are customizing a trip to Egypt. It will be 9 days. I could stay in Egypt much longer, of course, but most of us don't have that many days off to be able to do longer trips. So we are starting with a quick 9 days that will be 2 days of travel, 1 day on the front end, 1 day on the back end, and then actual 7 full days in the country itself, where we'll go to Cairo and Giza. We'll do a Nile River cruise as part of our experience. And with that, we'll visit Luxor, Aswan, and Kom Ombo. So we are really going to have a pretty broad view of Egypt, both from the cities, the countryside, and all of the various archaeological sites that we can get to. Our dates for this are leaving March 17th and returning by March 25th. Now, there may be some flexibility on flights in there, but we'll talk to people individually about that. Ideally, we can all be on the same flight, but maybe somebody has extra, circumstances, or they're going to be somewhere else and, need to connect, what have you. But those are kind of the basic dates of March 17th to March 25th of 2026. So first day, like I said, is going to be a travel day. So really our trip starts on day 2, and we are all going to be in Cairo. Typically your travel is overnight. So you're arriving in Cairo on day 2, and we are transferring to the hotel. So we get everybody settled in, and you're going to have some free time to go see some of the sites. But we will recommend some things for you to do, and we will have kind of a get together either at the hotel or a nearby restaurant to be able to, meet, greet, spend some time together, all of that at the beginning of the trip. But we will make recommendations to you for day 1, but technically it's free time because people may be coming and going at different times during that day. But that is our first day in Egypt. So third day, we really get into some of the meats of our trip. We're going to have breakfast at the hotel, but then we're going to have a guided tour of Cairo and the main sites there. We're starting at Giza, which is where the Great Pyramids and the Sphinx are located. And we're going to see that, wonder of the ancient world right off the bat. And following that up in the afternoon, we will visit the Egyptian Museum, which is, of course, where they've got all of the good stuff put away behind glass and protected. So we'll go take a look at all of that, kind of give you guys a good amount of time in there. But for those who want to kind of leave early and do some other things, there are other options for you for the later part of the afternoon. which is, going to one of the bazaars, or there's a Cairo by night optional tour that we won't have as part of the whole entire group doing it. But there will be some of us who are doing the night tour, which is pretty cool. But again, we want to give flexibility. So, we'll give you options, but we won't force everybody to the same, itinerary for every little thing to squeeze in. So, kind of based on what you want to do that day or what your interests are, you'll be able to, make some of those selections. And our guide in the country will absolutely be able to recommend to us all the places, if you want to just go shopping, if you want to go eat, if you want to do different activities, away from the group, they can recommend that for you and help you get transportation and, things like that when you're not part of what we are doing as a group. And again, I mean, there's only typically 12 to 14 people, so it's not like it's difficult for all of us to get around and do different things. But our guide is there to assist us in getting around and, during our free time. So, all right, day 4 is when we are going to transfer to kind of the southern part of the river. So we're going to start with breakfast at our hotel, and then we're going to transfer and take a short flight to Aswan, which is on the Nile River. We're going to have a little bit of a tour when we arrive, that visits some of the quarries and the dams. And then from there, really, we get to transfer to our ship, which is not, a huge ship. It's a river boat, so it's not that big. But we're going to be spending the next 3 nights on this ship, and we're going to get settled in on that 4th day. After we tour Aswan, we'll settle into the boat. We'll have lunch on the boat. And then we're going to, in the afternoon, continue on down the beautiful Nile and kind of just sail along, see the sights, experience what it's like to be on that ancient river. And we'll have dinner and overnight on board the ship on that 4th day. Day 5, we have a lot more sights to see. We're on the boat for meals and a lot of, different things coming and going over these 3 days. But we're going to start day 5. We're going to have an early morning excursion to Abu Simbel, which has a lot of carved temples into it. And then there is time, because that is an early morning excursion, that there's time for those who want to book an optional excursion over to the island of Philae. That is an island where the goddess Isis has a temple at. So it's a pretty cool location, and I definitely will be doing that tour. So if anybody wants to join me, just know that that's kind of an optional tour that we kind of squeeze in between the morning excursion, and then in the afternoon, when the ship moves on towards Kom Ombo, we will arrive at Kom Ombo and then explore from there the temples of Sobek and, wow, I really don't know how to pronounce this one, but Herois. Wow, I'm gonna have to look that one up before we go. But we're gonna, go see the twin temples and see the Nilometer, which is what they use to measure the height of the Nile River falling and rising. And then we are going to see a crocodile mummy museum, which should be pretty interesting. Never seen a mummified crocodile. And then we're going to return to the ship and for the evening and relax and have dinner and just enjoy the experience of sailing down the Nile for the 2nd night. All right, so day 6. We are moving on down the river, and we're going to see the Temple of Edfu today, which is dedicated to the god Horus. It's really well preserved. So it's a beautiful location, lots of great pictures there. And then we're going to go back to the ship for the afternoon, have some lunch, and then continue the journey on to Luxor, which is really an amazing ancient city. We'll go to the Temple of Luxor, which is, a very iconic location to see. It was built by Ramses II and is kind of a very iconic place to visit in Egypt. Other than the pyramids of Giza, I think Luxor is like the second most, popular place to visit for archaeological sites, of course. And then we are going to, after the afternoon at the Temple of Luxor, we're going to return to the ship, have dinner, and that will be our last night on board the ship on the Nile. Day 7, we're still in Luxor. We're going to have breakfast on board the ship, but then we're going to kind of go and do some excursions and transfer later in the day to the hotel. So we are heading to the Valley of the Kings in Luxor, which is also where the tomb of King Tut is located. Our tour does not include a tour inside King Tut's tomb, but there are options if you want to get that tour when we're there. You can go do that tour. There's guides, and you just kind of work that deal separately, or tell me in advance and I'll make sure that it's set up. But the general tour that we're doing as part of our excursion does not include the actual tomb tour of King Tut. It's just including a general tour of the entire Valley of Kings. You'll see the tomb of King Tut, but we don't actually go like in it, unless you want to add that additionally. It's a very cool site. We're gonna then continue on from the Valley of the Kings to the Temple of Hatshepsut, which is, I don't have a picture on this. I wish I did. I should put it in here, but it's an amazing view with the cliffs and the terraces. It's a very imposing structure, and you have to wonder, just like everything else in Egypt, like how did they build this here? And but we're gonna kind of wrap up that day in Luxor with that temple, and then cross the river onto the more modern side of Luxor. And that's where we will transfer to our hotel for the afternoon. And then you have the whole afternoon to kind of explore on your own. We do have some optional tours for the temple sound and light show that some of us will be going on. But if you don't want to do that, we can make recommendations for other things to do, or restaurants to go to, or local experiences there. And our local guide is going to be the best resource for some of that. And then we will spend that night in Luxor on day 7. Day 8, we're going to transfer after we have breakfast at the hotel. We are going to have another excursion where we're going to the Karnak Temple Complex, which is, they're a little more broken down. They're old temples and chapels and the columns and ancient ruins, basically. They're a little less of the structures that we're going to see elsewhere, but it's pretty cool to see some of these ancient structures and what went on there. So we're going to then, after that kind of temple tour or complex tour, we're going to transfer to the airport. And then we're going to take that short flight back into Cairo. And once we're in Cairo, we'll transfer from the airport to the hotel. So there's a little bit of, some activity in the morning. And then we're going to kind of spend the middle part of the day transferring back to Cairo and to the hotel in Cairo. And then we're going to have some free time that afternoon on day 8 to see more things in Cairo that we might have missed at the beginning of the tour. We have a couple optional excursions. So that's where, if you want to see the Grand Egyptian Museum, which just opened earlier this year, cannot wait to see it. It's amazing. Then we will be able to see it that afternoon and into the evening with our overnight stay in Cairo. And then last day, we will, have breakfast at the hotel and then get transferred to the airport for our flights back. And it is the end of our trip. Depending on when your flight is, there will be some flexibility on when you have breakfast or if there is breakfast, because some of the flights actually leave 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's just going to depend on your particular flight, on when you go to the airport and fly back. And then again, if you leave a little later in the day, you might actually get back the following day. It just really, again, is going to depend on individual flight choices. We have kind of a standard flight that as a group we're aiming for. But like I said, if you're not leaving from Orlando, which is where we are, or connecting with us in Orlando, then you might have a different flight, but we'll help work all of those details out for you. Just know that your transportation is, part of what is taken care of. On that note, here's everything that's included. What we make sure is we are supporting you from beginning to end. So pre-trip wise, we're going to give you a series of meetings that's reviewing everything you need to know on what to expect, what to pack. Do I need visas? Do I need vaccinations? What can I bring? What can I not bring? All of that, kind of pre-trip support. We will also be kind of trying to build a community with you ahead of time. So we're going to host some community kind of events online, and also some live get-togethers in Orlando. If you're near Orlando, you can come to those, and just get to know your fellow travelers and Guy and, me or the Adventures in Cruises team before the actual trip. And then we will be your extra in-person support during the trip itself. And then, so included with the itinerary is all of your flights, both international and within the country. So your flights to and from Egypt, and then within Egypt itself is part of the package. All of your accommodations with the hotels and staying on board the cruise are all included. All of our transfers from the airport and between hotels and activities, all of those transportations are included. We will have English speaking local guides who are wonderful. This is what they do. They are super professional. They know all the tips and tricks when we're in the country. And we will be relying on them to help get us all of the local info and insight for what we want to do. And then all of the activities that I've mentioned, and you will get, in writing and, in a brochure that tells you everything that's included. And then the meals that we listed out. So it will be almost all your breakfasts, some lunches, and some dinners. And again, that is listed out. If I mentioned, we're having dinner back on board, we're having lunch, we're having breakfast, those are all as a group, and they are included in your costs as part of the itinerary. And all of that will be absolutely detailed for you in written format before you move forward with anything. So that's a little bit of the details and the planning that we have, and how we are supporting, ahead of time and during your travels. So if you are excited and want to join us for Egypt, if you're ready to wander with us, here are the costs per person. This is based on double occupancy. So if you are a single or you want your own room, the cost might vary. It's not exactly double, but it is a little bit higher if you are taking a room alone versus double occupancy. And then if you have a 3 or 4 person room, just know that the costs are slightly different based on, the configuration of that. But base pricing is based on double occupancy of a room. Currently, we do have a partner is doing some sales for Black Friday. So we have like $500 off. So the total, and remember, this includes all of your flights, transportation, hotel activities, and a good amount of your meals, is $2,997 per person, which is phenomenal. And that is available until November 30th or until we have filled up our group space. Remember, we do not travel with more than 20 people. So that's including myself as one of the guides. So, there's not a huge amount of space on any of our trips. So, just keep that in mind. We do fill up. So flying, this pricing is based on flying from to and from Orlando Airport in economy seating. You do have the opportunity with any of our tours to upgrade if you want premium or even business class seating on your flights. It's just that that's not what this pricing is based on. But you can have that choice. And then the level of hotel is considered superior. So it's more of a 4-star level. If you want a higher level, there are some other hotel options. But again, that's not what our pricing is based on. So just, to give everybody the right expectation. And these are the dates that we are pricing. So should you want to do this, but maybe a different time of year or different dates, we can work with you to do that. It just is not this group, and that pricing may adjust based on the time of year that you're going and how many people are going. So just know that there is that option out there, but we are specifically talking about these dates to and from Orlando in kind of that premium 4-star level accommodations, and again, the economy seats on the flights. So if you are thinking you want to join us, basically how it works is that you set up a time to individually speak with me, because I want to confirm the details, ask some questions, have you ask whatever questions you have of me. And the best way to do that is if you can scan the QR code and get on my calendar. That's the easiest way to do it. That's also the address right there. It's on my Calendly link, and it just sets up. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes. If you want it to be 5 minutes, that's fine. It just puts you on my calendar so that we can talk. If you are happy after we talk and after you get some of like the itinerary details to review, the deposit is 60% of the total. And we have to send that to the tour operator. That's not funds that we keep. That just goes to the tour operator. It is refundable if you need to cancel up to 30 days before your trip. You get a travel credit. It's not refunded, but it is a travel credit, so you don't lose your funds. That's different than travel insurance, which is a whole other topic. But just know that it's initial 60% deposit per person. And then that goes over to our tour operator within Egypt, and is refundable as a travel credit. It does not have to be used for Egypt, for the record. If you ever need to cancel, this is our tour operators, our partners are worldwide. So if something happens and you end up not being able to go on the Egypt trip, you can use that travel credit for any of our tours around the world. that happen every week of the year. So it's not a limited kind of credit. But then after you've, put your deposit in, you're ready to go, we're going to get connected. Join us for our educational, webinars and information. And we're going to have an app where everybody can kind of chat and meet each other and join that community. And then after that, the remaining 40% of the funds are due no less than 90 days prior to the trip. You can pay whenever up to that point, but that final balance is due 90 days before the trip, which for this is mid-January. So just kind of keep that in mind for the timing of when everything is due. And we just send you links. You can pay either by credit card, you can pay by direct deposit, whatever is the most convenient for you. Details for later. But basically, I don't want to take anybody's money right now. I just want you to set up a conversation so that we can meet, talk, make sure this is the right thing for you, and kind of gather the information of how many people you have coming, that these are the dates you want to do, that this is, get all of the information and make sure that we're customizing it for you as part of our group. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap this up. And I appreciate you taking the time, if you have made it this far, for joining us. And again, if you have any questions, you can contact me by getting on my calendar, or there is my contact information right there, kim.huber@cruiseplanners.com. Our website, adventuresandcruises.com, or our phone number is 407-900-3145. And you can both text and call that number. It is capable of text messaging, and that goes directly to me. So if that's the way you prefer to talk, that's an okay thing. Just give me a text. But email, phone number, text, website, all there. If you have any questions, just send us a note and we will answer them as quickly as possible. And I think that is our wrap up for today. Thank you very much. Hope to see you on one of our tours.